Okay, so in this recording, we are going to go over the assignment for Unit 3, Lesson 2, which is an introduction to design mode. So for this one, we are going to complete some exercises on code.org, and they are linked right here in the assignment. So we're going to learn how to create screens, buttons, images, text, and more inside of what's called App Lab. So we're going to go ahead and continue to puzzle number 2. And we're going to simply look at the elements on the screen. The only thing you really need to do in this one is really just explore what you can and cannot do. So for instance, in design mode, you can move things around, so feel free to just modify anything. Don't worry, you can't break anything, and if you do, I'll show you how to restore stuff. So you can feel free to move stuff around, move images around, you can move buttons around, text, and any symbols that you see also. You can also resize things. So you can try to click and drag this. There we go. You can resize things. Images you should also be able to resize as well. So one thing is it might be a little difficult to resize things because you have to get your mouse just right. This is only one way that you can resize things. The other way is to come over here to the Properties panel. So what you would need to do is click on anything that you want to resize. Say we want to resize this image of the flowers. We come over here and you can actually change the numbers. So you can see the width and the height are right here. I could change it to a width of 200 and a height of 200, and you can resize it that way. You could also change the position also under Properties instead of using your mouse. So say I wanted to move this to the top left corner, I can make X position 0 and Y position 0, and that'll bring it to the top here. You can also change the fit image. You could do cover, you could do contain, and you could also do none. So it kind of like just varies how it fills the screen. You can also do fill. So I'm going to leave it at contain. Other things you can change are like the font color. If you have text here, you could change it over here in properties again. So right now it's like a black color, but you could use this little color picker. Change it to red, or if you scroll down, you can see other colors as well. You could also make it kind of more transparent, lighter. If you move this all the way to the left, it'll be completely transparent, so you usually don't want that. Down here you can see some text that has a border, so you see that the border color here is specified. You can change the color of that. You can also change what's called the border radius, so that's how rounded it is. So see how it's very round? If you put 0, it'll be square, like rectangular. The higher the number, the more rounded it is. You can also change the border width to be thicker, that's really thick, or thinner. You could change the text alignment. Right now it's centered, but you could do it to the left or to the right. But I'll leave it at centered since that looks better. You'll notice that some of these buttons are rounded as well. Some of them are square. That's the same thing. That's your border radius. So if you want to make it rounded like the other ones, you could change the border radius to something greater than 0. Your buttons can also have a border color. So for instance, let's maybe change this to our dark blue and then change the width to 2 so you can actually see it. So now you can see that this button has a border. You could change, you can change the color of a button as well to anything that you like. And remember, you just need to click on the element first before you can edit these different properties. So this is the way that you would change different properties of elements on your screen when you create your own application. And then I promised I would show you how to fix the screen if you mess it up. So let's say that, I want to I want to pretend that I didn't do anything to the screen, that it goes back to how it was originally. You can go ahead and click on this version history button and scroll down, and you can click on start over. What's also really useful is as you make changes, it will create some quick saves, and you can actually restore different versions. So say you did something and it totally broke your program, you can go back to your last working copy so you don't have to start from scratch. But let's say we want to start over from the original copy. We just click that, start over, and now you'll see the way it looked before we did anything. Okay, that's all I want to do for this puzzle. We do have to run it at least once in order to get the finish button, so make sure you run it and then you can finish. Puzzle number 3 has us clicking on the screen element. So we click on the screen element. I'm actually going to refresh this because I made some changes already. So on your screen you should see a very plain looking application with no real theme, no real not a nice color configuration and stuff like that. Very, very plain looking application. What we want to do is we want to play with the different theme selections that we have here. So they want you to find the theme that matches the picture below. And so the idea is just to kind of click through here and find the one that matches the different colors. And we see that Area 51 looks like it matches, so we click that. And you should see your application look very much like the one in the screenshot. So in the future, when you create your own applications, you can feel free to use these different themes instead of trying to create your own theme. Or you can use them as like a starting basis and then change it up however you like. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on Area 51. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this once so I can click the finish button. So the point of this lesson is really just showing you how to use the design mode for App Labs. So again, I'm going to start this one over. So what if you wanted to customize your app without the use of a theme? What if you wanted to basically select the color for each of the elements independent of a theme? So in order to do that, we would select each element and then use the Properties panel. So we want our application to match this screenshot here. So this bell is kind of like what we call a periwinkle color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my bell is selected, and I'm going to scroll down to where it says icon color. And then I'm going to use my color picker, and I'm going to scroll this little thing over to like a purplish blue. And then I'm going to try to find, and I don't care if you find like the perfect color, just as long as it's close. I think that's pretty close. So feel free, you can also put this value in as well if you want to do it that way. So I'm going to leave it at that color, and then I want to, let's make the background color of the screen a purple color. So I'm just going to click on the screen itself. Make sure you're not clicking on a different element. We want to make sure that we're clicking on a blank space in this screen. And you should see over here that the ID is screen. We're going to change the background color. Right now it's white, and we want it kind of like a dark royal purple. So let's get this a little closer. So I think that's pretty close. It's not perfect, but like I said, we just want to learn how to use the different options here. Yeah, that's pretty close. Okay. So next, maybe we want to do the application title. So I'm going to click on that element, and the application title is just white. So that's going to be pretty easy. So let's click on text color here under the properties. And we're just going to bring this all the way to the top left where it is a white color. And then for this text under here, we want it to be more of a magenta color. So we're going to click on that text. we're going to modify this text color to be a nice magenta color. So let's just drag that up there, maybe a little darker. That's about right. And if you scroll down here, you'll notice that in the screenshot, the buttons are the same color as that text up there. So instead of trying to find this color again, I'm actually going to copy the code for that color, and I'm going to paste that into the color fields for both of these buttons. So I'm going to select that button, and I'm going to do the background color, not the text color, because it's the background color of the button that is that magenta color. And I'm going to paste that in there, and now we see the button turn that color. And then same thing for this other button right here. Background color gets that same color. And again, I just copied and pasted that value. If you're on a Windows machine, you can copy by pressing Control-C, and you can paste by holding down Control-V. All right. For the other elements, it doesn't look like they've modified anything, so I'm going to say that's pretty good. Right, it matches pretty well. It's not perfect, but we got the idea. So now we're going to go ahead and run it so that we can click Finish. And then for our next puzzle, we are going to add an image. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this, start over. Okay, so for this one, it's showing you that you can add images to your app by uploading them to your assets or pasting a link to the image. So in this case, they want you to download a picture of a cat and upload it to your assets, and then add the image to your screen following the GIF below. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you so you don't have to look at the GIF. So first thing is just to use a Google search to find a picture of a cat. Okay, so find whatever cat you want. I think this is the one I used for class. So what I did is I clicked on it, and then I went ahead and I right-clicked, and I said Save Image As. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it on my desktop so that it'll be very easy to find. So once I go ahead and save that image, I'm going to go back over to code.org, and there's going to be this image object here. And right now it doesn't have an image associated with it, so I'm going to click it. And then under Properties, if I scroll down, there's this section that just says Image. And I can click on this link right here that says Choose. And then I can go ahead and I can upload a file. I'm going to go ahead and find the file that I just downloaded, this one right here. It's going to upload that file, and then I can choose it. Once I click Choose, the image should appear, and you can, resize it. You can drag it around, reposition it, anything you want. So make that larger. And that's how you upload images to your application. So once you have that image added, or whatever image of your choice, you can click Run and then Finish. All right, for this next one, we are going to format a few things. So they've already added a label here that says movie times, but what we need to add is some icons. So they look like pictures, but these are actually icons in code.org's library. We're going to add these, find and add these icons. So over here we see on the left, this is like a movie camera, and then on the right hand side we see some film. So we can find this under the image chooser, and I'll show you how to find that. So the first thing to do is we need to add two image objects. I'm going to click and drag. I found this under the design toolbox, image object, and then another one here on the right. And then let's go ahead and resize this a bit as well to kind of better match what we see here. So maybe instead of 100 by 100, maybe 70 by 70. And we can always adjust that if that doesn't look quite right once we add the images. And then we can kind of adjust where they are as well. Okay, there you go. So now, actually I want to move this maybe a little bit down. It doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Okay, so now what we want to do is let's start off with the one on the left, so this movie camera. You're going to go ahead and click on that image object, and we're going to scroll down in the properties panel to where it says image again. And we're going to kind of do like what we did with the cat picture. We're going to click on choose, but instead of uploading something, we're going to go ahead and click on icons. And here, there's going to be a ton of icons here, so thankfully we can search. And so we're looking for a camera, so this is our video camera. So we can go ahead and click on that guy, and it'll add it here. And then for the one on the right, we'll do the same thing. Click on the image object, scroll down in the properties panel where it says image, click on choose, click on icons, and then now we're looking for film. And so we can go ahead and click on the film icon there. So that'll add that, that icon there. So that looks great. It looks just like the picture, so we can go ahead and run that once, then finish. And then moving on to number 7, make sure that I reset this. We've got the cookie clicker. And so for this one, we're going to start talking about what it means to have elements that have meaningful names. So when you begin programming your application, which you may have already done, you're going to be able to control each element on the screen using its ID. And so it's really important that you name each of the elements on the screen. So when I'm talking about elements, I mean text, the screen itself is an element, any images and buttons. You're going to want to name those very meaningfully, because once you have so many images in your application, it's going to be really hard to decipher image 1 from image 2, or button 1 from button 2, or label 1 and label 5, right? So we're going to go through each of the different elements on the screen, and we're going to rename them to something meaningful. So for example, screen 1, we can rename to main screen, since this is the screen that we start off on. This one only has one screen to start off with, but so we just have to worry about that. For label 1, we can call this title label. And then down here we have the second label. We can call this instruction label. So now we know that, we can refer to the title as title label, the instructions as instruction label. And the screen is main screen. This image right here, we can rename as cookie image. And then our last element here is the button. So we can just call this play button. So a really good convention for providing meaningful names is to use 1 or 2 words describing what the element is or looks like, and then the last word should be the type of element it is. So this is a button, so it's the play button. This is an image, so it's the cookie image. This is a label, so it's the instructions label. And then this is also a label, so it's the title label. And then last, we've got the screen. It's the first screen, so I just called it the main screen. All right, so in order to finish this one off, we have to click Run, and then you could also click Play, but it's not actually coded. So we'll just go ahead and click Finish. All right, so number 8 is a more challenging one. So I'm going to start over. So this one, it starts you off with a completely blank screen, and they want you to recreate this screen right here. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect match, just, kind of the right idea. They, in addition to recreating the screen, they want you to also provide meaningful element IDs. So let's go ahead and start off with renaming the first element that we have, which is the screen. I'm just going to call it main screen. And we can see that the screen itself has a blue background, so let's go ahead and start off by finding that blue background. So I'm going to go ahead and again, I went to my properties after clicking on the screen and I clicked on the background color and now I'm choosing a color. So if I scroll down, I can see where my blue colors are. Let me make this a little bigger. And I kind of want to see that color at the same time. There we go. So that's pretty close. Maybe a little bit more on the green side than I like. So again, doesn't have to be perfect, just close enough. That's pretty close. All right, so maybe then for the next thing, maybe I'll put my title and I'll use a label for that. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag a label over. I'll call this my title label. So for the text, we're going to go ahead and put practice log. And I can see that the color is white and then the font is different than the one that I see here. So I'm going to have to find a font that matches the one that I see here. And also the font size needs to be larger as well. So let's scroll down. Let's do the color first. So we've got text color. It's going to be white. So we're just going to click and drag all the way up to the left here, the top left. And then for the font family, it's not Arial Black. Let's see, maybe it's Lucida Console. Not quite. Georgia, that looks like it. Looks like it's the Georgia font family. Let's make it larger, maybe 40. Maybe a little larger, let's say 50. And we can also see that the background is a different color as well. Oop. I just accidentally deleted mine, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and get that guy back up there. So this is the main title. I'm going to put practice log. And let's go ahead and do our font color again. So white color. We'll go ahead and change that to Georgia again. And 45. Okay. So let's see, where were we? So I was repositioning that. I was going to make this a little wider and bring this up a bit. It also looks like it might be centered as well. So we've got to find a couple things. We need to find the alignment, which is right here. Make it center. And then we also need to find the background color. So let's scroll up a bit. And you can see the background color right here. And let's go ahead and click on the right here. It was a little bit invisible because it was that gray. And we're going to go ahead and drag this over to blue. Right now it's not showing up because by default it's over here where it is completely transparent. So if you drag that over, we're going to see some color. So let's go ahead and make this kind of a medium blue. Again, don't worry if you can't get it perfectly. Like this is close enough, right? It's not perfect, but it's close enough. So I'm going to leave it like that. It does look like this is a little bit too high. So remember, we can adjust it with our mouse, but sometimes that's a little difficult. So you can also find the height here. And we can make that a little smaller, let's say 50, which maybe a little higher than that, maybe 75. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and stick with that. The width, let's make it the whole width of the application. So the width is going to be 320. Okay, and then we'll just make sure that it starts over at 0, 0. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, pretty close. What else do we need? We need these images, we need these icons. So let's go ahead and bring over some image objects. And I'm going to resize these. I'm going to make these maybe 20 by 20. Maybe that's a little too small. Let's try 45 by 45. I think that's pretty good. And maybe we'll make the font a little smaller so it doesn't take up the whole space. So I'm going to click on this main title again, and I'm going to go to my font size, and I'm going to make it, let's try 35. Okay, that looks a little bit better so that we can actually fit in our icons. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drag in another image over here on the right of the text, and then I'm going to adjust the width and the height. I think we do 45 by 45. Yeah. Okay. So now we've got those in there. Next thing is we want to import these two different icons. So let's do the first one. Go ahead and click on that left image. Let's go ahead and name this to music icon. And then we want to go ahead and we want to find the icon. So we're going to go to the field that says image, click on choose, and then we're going to go to icons. Now let's just click in music. And here we have the icon we want. So select that, and then we have to change the color to a yellow color. So find where it says icon color, and drag this over to a nice yellow color. All right, so that looks pretty close. Looks good. And then we want to go ahead and find this one, which is like headphones. So we're going to click on the second image. We're going to rename this to headphone icon. Then we'll go ahead and scroll down to the image field, click on choose, click on icons, and then actually you can see it right here, but if you didn't, you could just type in headphones and it'll be that second one right there. Change the color to that nice yellow color again. And I think I'm a little on the green side there. There we go. That looks good. Okay, so now we've got our title with the images. You can make adjustments as needed. Okay, so I'm going to skip this image of the keyboard first and move on to what's on the bottom here. So we'll come back to the keyboard part. Down here we have, it looks like a text area. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag a text area. And it looks like it's the same color as the background of this title here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that color. So I'm going to click on my main title. I'm going to scroll down to the background color, and I'm just going to copy this value because that's the blue that I want. And then I'll click on my text area, and let's rename this thing before we go through. Let's rename this practice text. Oops, practice text. And right now there's not any text displayed there, but we can definitely change the background color. So let's go ahead and find the background color, paste that in there, and now we'll see that change. And we can go ahead and also position it a little better, make it a little larger to match the screen shot that we see here. And it looks like there's a border around ours by default. Let's go ahead and take that away. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the white under border color. We're going to scroll down and see the second slider. If we bring it all the way to the left, that's going to make the border transparent so that we don't see it anymore. All right, so down here we have a drop down. So we're going to find the drop down right over here. We're going to bring that over to the bottom left area. Make it a little smaller, and we do see that it is rounded. So if you remember, we can make things rounded by adjusting the border radius. So I'm going to put this maybe a 10 to make it rounded, maybe a little bit more, 20. And that looks a lot more like this. A couple more things we need to change is the border. It appears to be like a gray color, like a blue-gray color. So let's go ahead and find the border color. So we're going to change it from this black color to a nice gray color, and maybe a little bit thicker as well, like a thicker border. So let's go ahead and go to border width. Let's say maybe 3, or maybe 2. I think 2 looks pretty good. And let's see what else. It looks like the color of the options is blue, so that's going to be the text color. So if we go to the text color, and the blue looks actually really close to the one that we see up here, and I still have that. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in, and you can use that same value as well. The text that it starts out with as an option, so you can see the options here, you can see 8 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and put 8 a.m. in there as an option. And then we'll call this thing maybe time drop down, because it seems to be a drop down for different times. And it appears that maybe the background also is like kind of a paler gray, not quite a white. So we can definitely change that as well. So if we find the background color, make this more of a light gray color. Let's make this towards the blue area. There we go. It's a little bit closer. Okay, so now we have that drop down. We also have, this looks like maybe a text input, perhaps. So let's go ahead and click and drag a text input in there, because it looks like maybe the user can input something there. And so for this one, we've got a white border. So I'm going to scroll down to the border area. Here's the border color. We're going to select a white border with a border width of 2. We definitely do see a little bit of rounding, but I think 4 is enough. The background is kind of a darker gray, so we're going to find color, the background color, and let's see, we're going to put this more on the blue side, and then make it a little darker by dragging down. Maybe a little lighter than that. Again, you don't have to get it super perfect. I think that's close enough. And what you see there is what's called a placeholder text. And so I'm going to put instrument here. And that's our placeholder text. The last thing we need to do for this one is give it a meaningful ID. So I'll say instrument input. Okay, so that's good for that one. Now we've got our button, and then we just have to worry about this image right here. So let's go ahead and add our button. So if we go to the top here, we'll see a button. It looks like maybe we need to drag these guys up a little bit just to give that button some room. Okay, looks pretty good. So this button is going to be a bit rounded. Maybe scroll down to the radius here. Oh, I missed it. Border radius, let's give it a value of 20. It looks pretty good. The border color is going to be a nice yellow color. Make that yellow. Maybe a little bit more over here. Okay, so I'm choosing this value for my yellow. It does look like it could be a little thicker, so let's try 4. I think that's pretty good. the background color of the button isn't going to be orange, it's going to be kind of this softer blue-gray. So let's scroll to the background color and maybe make it more on the blue side here. I think that's pretty good. And then the text color is going to be that same blue that we've been using. So I'm going to find my text color, paste that in. Okay. And I think the font might be different, so you can choose a different one. I think maybe just Arial instead of Arial Black. And then the text on the button is going to be add record. So if I go, I think to the top here, we'll see the text. You'll go to add record. Okay, and then we'll rename this button ID to record button or record button. Oops, record button. There we go. Maybe make this guy a little wider. And there we go. It looks pretty close. Now we just need to worry about this image right there. So this image, you could do this in a few different ways. You can try to create it. You can try to find an image on the internet that looks like it, or I'm going to kind of take the cheatery way out. I'm going to take a screenshot of this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and you can use the snipping tool on your laptop, or you can just Google an image of a keyboard. Either way you want to do it, but you're going to wind up with a picture on your computer. So then you're going to go ahead and drag one of these image guys over and then kind of resize it so that it matches the dimensions that you kind of see on the left here. Again, it doesn't have to be totally perfect. So this is pretty close to what I see. Maybe a little bit more like that. Okay, so now when I have this image selected, let's go ahead and rename the ID to maybe keyboard image or piano image, whatever you want to select. We can scroll down to the image section right here, go to choose, and you can see I've done this a few times. Go to upload, and then locate where you have your image downloaded. So I have mine on my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and upload that and choose it. And then you can kind of see that it gets put in the correct place there, and it looks pretty close to what you see on the right hand side. Not exactly, but it's close enough. It gets the idea. And it certainly works for the scope of this class. And then you can go ahead and run it, and it looks pretty good. So once you're finished, you can click on Submit. And the last question is a reflection question. So why is it important for element IDs to have meaningful names? So what is key to remember is that when you are programming, you have to refer to any element by its ID. If you have generic names like button 1, it can be hard to remember which element is which. Using meaningful IDs can help you quickly identify the element you want to refer to. Okay, so it's purely for making it easier on yourself. The computer does not care what you call your elements, but you certainly do. You need to create meaningful IDs for your own benefit and for other people who are working with your application in terms of developing that application. You're doing that for your guys' sake, for you to be able to understand and recognize what those elements are and which ones you actually want to refer to when you're adding code. Okay, so once you're done with this, you can go ahead and mark this as submitted on Google Classroom.